the present planet, every present planet with all its planetary chain has come from its parent planet with its planetary chain. If we have our earth and the chain of 7 earths, if you call it B, it should have come from another earth, which you can call A, having its own chain of 7 globes. So, every such chain is the progeny and creation of another. This is a sentence from the stanzas of the Secret Depth. I will read out once again. Of course, you find all these things in the Secret Doctrines, but the volume is big and the sentences are just dispersed. I will read it once again. Every such chain is the progeny and creation of another. And what is that another? It can be called a dead chain of the same planet. So, for our earth, there was a dead chain of earth planet from which the present living earth globe and earth chain have come. And they say that this is a reincarnation of the previous earth planet chain. Now you can ask, did all the material come from the previous planet to this earth? Where from the material of this earth came? Is it taken from it? The answer is, where from the matter of this body has come. All the kilos we have in our body, kilograms, do they come from father and mother? I am very much interested that there is a circus going on in this city, and after some days I fear the fellow takes away the circus from Geneva to Paris before my friend Rodolphe takes me to the circus. And suppose I see the circus in Geneva, and once again I go to Paris, where our friend Claire will be there to take me to circus once again. We find everything the same animals, the same ring and circle, the same ringmaster, everything the same, including the clowns, the same fellows. So, question, was the space also taken from Geneva to Paris? And the earth and the sand upon which the circus was taking place also was taken from here to Paris? Foolish. The earth is left in Geneva, and Paris earth was hired in Paris, and London earth was hired in London. But the living beings were taken, and the essential things were taken. So, in us also, when we leave this physical body and when we are kicked to reincarnate in some other body, that does not mean we have to carry all these things like this, the whole material upon our back. We are not allowed to take anything from here. The customs gate between living life and death is more precise and intricate than the customs gate in Geneva airport. At least suitcases and garments are allowed in the customs at Geneva. Here, the material of the bodies is not allowed. You are expected to submit all the material with all the atoms of the physical body to Geneva and go away. But you are permitted to take your real belonging. That is the mind and the five senses, the buddhi, and your past associations. Suppose the doctor instructed strictly, don't take coffee. And suppose Krishnamacharya craved and craved for coffee morning and night, and left the body without coffee because the doctor never allowed. And the customs never allow coffee to be taken. But the smell of coffee never exists in coffee powder, but it exists in the nose and the mind of the fellow. If you place here good coffee powder with packet opened, and if there is no one in this room, does it have coffee smell? Smell is to a person, not to itself, coffee powder. So, Krishnamacharya has taken the beautiful flavor and the smell of coffee when he left the body. The customs first checks and declare and says, accept it. You can take the smell with you. And in the next body, when water is placed, milk is placed, honey is placed, and coffee is placed on the table, I place my hand on the coffee even when I am quite a child. That is what is called the associations carried from one life to another. Those are allowed to be taken. Same thing with the planetary chains also. All the material is placed there, and the essentials of the planetary chain are taken and transported from one planetary chain to another. This is what is called reincarnation of the planetary chain. For this, we have the eighth principle, that which is different from these 7 globes of each planetary chain. Apart from these 7 globes of each planet, there is an 8th aspect which can be called a planetary hole in space. Just you can call it, imagine like that. And the secret doctrine calls it the nucleolus of that planet. And from that, a nucleus of that planet comes out. This is nucleolus, but this is nucleus. And this forms the A globe of the new planetary chain. This is what happens when one planetary chain begins to die. Another planetary chain is produced by the seed of the planetary chain. Another globe A is projected, and the contents of the previous globe A are transported to this through some millions of years, and then this begins to give its B globe. Then the previous B globe transports its contents to the B globe. Like that, the new planetary chain forms up to G globe. For some time, this planetary chain exists. functionally, but it exists structurally. In the, you mean present Earth globe, or you mean these previous globes? When the transportation begins, there is no further spiritual evolution in it, because you can compare this with the last batch of students in an university before the university was closed forever, and a new university is opened by the same staff. There is a transportation of the last batch of students from the older university to the new university. Similarly, the egos are the permanent atoms of the same globe of the previous planetary chain. They are transferred to the corresponding globe of the new planetary chain, and then their spiritual evolution is not stopped, but it continues in the new planetary chain, and it is exactly in the same position we are now, because we are recently transferred from another planetary chain to this planetary Earth planetary chain, and that chain has become defunct and a dead chain, and the D globe of that dead chain is what we call our moon, and he is working as the satellite of the D group of our Earth chain, and therefore as it stands, there are no evolution courses going on in the older university of the moon. This is one of the fundamental differences between the secret doctrine and the modern science. The modern scientists, among the modern scientists, there are many who believe that our moon is a piece of our earth shot out from this earth, the hollow of which is the present Pacific Ocean. So according to them, the present satellite moon is much younger than our earth. But according to the ancient scientists and the secret doctrine, our present moon is a dead planet, a deserted palace. Okay, that is the present position. And this process is called the rebirth of planetary chains. And the A globe that newly forms is exactly like the nucleolus from which it forms. Almost to our mind and senses, it is nothing but space. But the difference is like this. This is like our soul consciousness, introverted. This is like our soul consciousness, extroverted. That is how the Sanskrit terms were used by the secret doctrine. This nucleolus is called Pratyagatma of that planet. Atma means soul. Pratyak means facing himself. That is, he is his own soul facing himself. That means introverted. He is like a yogi during the process of introversion. Just like a yogi having his mind and senses focused upon the I am of himself. Pratyagatma. It is composed of two words, Pratyak plus Atma. Pratyak means face to face. Atma means I am. So here you have the I am face to face to himself. And here we have what is called Jivatma. That is a soul living outward life. That's the difference. In us also we have the two. When we are in soul consciousness, we will be in this state when we practice yoga thoroughly. And when we are living in the objective world, we are in the stage of globe A. And B is like our monad or permanent atom. C is like our buddhic plane. And the globe D is like our lower principles. That is the mind, senses and the physics. So we come out like this into the D globe, we again go into it. Exactly the same process occurs in us and the planets also. This is the second aspect of the theory. Jiva means a dweller. Exactly, we can call him a being. This is the etymological translation. I told you the root Ji in Sanskrit and the root Zu in some other language produce the same words, Jiva and Zu. We find zoological gardens, etc. They come from the same roots. That is living beings. The word zodiac comes from the same. That is a group of beings. The ear god, Allfather, was having many beings and beasts with him. He called his sons and blessed them and gave some of them his sheep, some of them his bulls and cows, some of them his slave boys and slave girls. You know the fables in the Old Testament? There are many patriarchs who are the gods of the year. They distributed the wealth among their children. From Abraham. So the wealth distributed by them is called zodiac or the zoo. And let us try to peep into a third aspect of the theory. You question how long a planetary chain lives. First of all, remember that it has its own average span of life. Just as a human being has an average span, a dog has dog average, cow has cow average, man has man average, a planetary chain has a planetary chain average span of life. Let us try to go into a little bit of detail. Life activity begins to pulsate from globe A, and one pulsation takes some millions of years, and it is transmitted to group B. For example, there was pulsation 1. It is transmitted into B when it becomes pulsation 2. But again, this fellow goes on pulsating, it never stops. And then this fellow begins to pulsate. But these fellow also, they also pulsate. You see how the illuminations in the evening functions, how the lights pulsate, they travel, the pulsations. So there is a simultaneity of pulsation. Like this, pulsation 4 is there, 5, 6, 7. Suppose one pulsation takes x millions of years. So same thing to this fellow. When this fellow is undergoing the second span of x million of years, this fellow is undergoing the first span of 6 million of years. Suppose the father is 30 years when the son was born. The same difference of age continues as they grow up. And when the first pulsation is made, second pulsation is made, and when a globe pulsates 7 times, then a globe stops to pulsate. And then B globe pulsates for the 7th time and it stops. But before this reaches P7, there will be a junior, a disciple, a globe of this fellow, to whom the contents will be transported, and then the death of this fellow occurs, because he has no death in the aeroplane, death in the railway station, etc. It is a periodical death. So after this is called one round of pulsation, and when there are 7 rounds of pulsation, the planet dies. Don't think that everything is darkness. See, if you can imagine how many people a day are dying in Geneva or any city, if we think only in one dimension, we can very easily calculate in how many years the city becomes lifeless. But we must remember that it is replaced. So the average population of Geneva remains constant, because there are maternity wards on one side and cemeteries on the other side, and in between the number of people are always constant. Same thing with these fellows planets also. So common sense applied according to the law of correspondence. So it is said, after 7 flickerings the planet dies. Now we had the 7th flickering of the previous earth, which we now call the moon, and from all his globes gradually the whole circus is transported to Geneva, to the present earth globe. And now the old fellow is going round the earth as its satellite. So the life energy is transferred to the new planet, and this is done in all the 7 globes. So there should be the production of the 7 globes of the same planet before the planet completely dies. This is one aspect. This is the moon we see is the D globe of the previous earth chain, and this is the moon we see on our full moon, and the present earth is the D globe of our new earth planet. We are just new to this earth, and we are the egos transferred from the moon to this earth. That's why it is said we belong to the moon chain. We, the present human beings of this earth, belong to the moon chain. And then what happens to this fellow? With all his previous 7 globes, there will be a gradual decomposition of the planet substance. Just as when a corpse is thrown into a ditch of sand and buried with sand, there is a gradual decomposition of the matter of the corpse, only to return into the original earth matter. So it is said to recede into a center, negative center of the planet called Laya center. That is a homogeneous state of space, just as when we put some salt in this and some sugar in this and some copper sulfate, many soluble substance, dissolve them and then distill, the water comes out. Similarly, the planet substance of the finest order, which is nothing but space, recedes to the original pure states, pure space state. That is called a Laya center in the secret doctrine.